Göbekli Tepe itself was the end of a process, not the beginning of a process. It was something that marked, it was a marker. It was something that brought together the best of everything that they'd accumulated and created it in one place.
The latest laser scans have uncovered something extraordinary beneath the world's oldest known temple. Something that challenges everything we thought we knew about ancient engineering. For decades, scientists have struggled with one impossible question. How were 50-ton stones transported uphill by humans who had no horses, no wheels, and no machines?
We'd never before known or imagined even that simple hunter-gatherers could produce such spectacular monumental structures.
Now, a groundbreaking study released in 2025 has revealed something even more unsettling. The tool marks etched into the stone don't resemble damage from primitive stone tools. Instead, they look as if extreme heat was involved. Let that sink in. This structure was built roughly 11,600 years ago. And yet, cue music. The stone enclosures display symmetry so precise, it's accurate down to the millimeter. This discovery points to a terrifying possibility. Much of what we've been taught about early human history may be completely wrong. This is the temple that was never supposed to exist. Hidden in the barren landscape of southeastern Turkey lies a massive archaeological site that defies everything we think we know. Its name is Göbekli Tepe. Most people believe civilization began with the Egyptians or the Sumerians, but this place is far older. In fact, it predates the oldest pyramid by thousands of years. Built around 9,600 BCE, that makes it more than 11,000 years old. To put that into perspective, Stonehenge, one of the most famous ancient monuments on Earth, was constructed about 5,000 years ago. By the time the first stone was raised in England, Göbekli Tepe was already ancient history and completely buried. Even more shocking, the people who built it had no metal tools, no wheel, no written language, and yet they created a monumental complex sprawling across an area the size of 20 football fields. The site contains at least 20 massive circular enclosures. Inside each one stand enormous T-shaped pillars, monuments, not rough stones. These towering monoliths reach heights of up to 18 feet, with some weighing as much as 50 tons. That's roughly the weight of 3 full-sized school buses stacked on top of each other. And here's where things get truly wild. These stones weren't sitting at the top of the hill waiting to be used. They were carved directly from solid bedrock at the base of the slope, and somehow transported uphill to the summit. Modern engineers admit that moving a single 50-ton stone up a steep incline today would require heavy-duty cranes and a specialized crew. Music rises. These ancient builders did it with nothing but human strength and basic rope. But the mystery doesn't stop there. The artwork carved into these pillars is just as baffling. Every surface is covered in intricate images of powerful, dangerous animals, snarling lions with visible ribs, aggressive foxes, scorpions, vultures. These aren't shallow etchings. They're carved in high relief, meaning the figures physically rise out of the stone. To achieve that, artisans had to remove all the surrounding rock, leaving the animal standing out in 3 dimensions. One slip of the hand would ruin everything. And they did this on some of the hardest limestone known, using nothing but stone tools. The official explanation claims these people were simple hunter-gatherers, nomads scraping by day to day, searching for berries and wild game. No permanent homes, no cities, no complex society. But that story is collapsing. Hunter-gatherers don't have the surplus food to support hundreds of skilled workers for years on end. They don't have the organizational structure needed to move multi-ton stones. A project of this scale demands excess resources, long-term planning, and a reason for thousands of people to remain in one place. Göbekli Tepe proves that someone had all of that, thousands of years earlier than anyone thought possible. But the most disturbing part of this site isn't how it was built, it's how it ended. Around 8000 BCE, the people who used this temple made an unimaginable decision. They didn't abandon it. They didn't let time and nature slowly erase it. Music darkens, they deliberately buried it. They hauled in thousands upon thousands of tons of dirt and stone, entombing the entire complex beneath an artificial hill. They erased it from the surface of the earth on purpose, and it remained hidden for nearly 10,000 years, until a farmer struck stone with his plow. Why would a civilization invest centuries into building one of the most extraordinary structures ever created, only to deliberately erase it? And worse still, what were they trying to hide? In 2025, a team of scientists decided to answer that question using the most advanced scanning technology humanity has ever developed. They turned their instruments toward the stones once again, and what they found beneath the surface changed everything. To uncover the truth, researchers turned to technology so advanced it can detect details thinner than a strand of human hair. Three-dimensional laser scanners mapped every surface of the stones, while artificial intelligence was brought in to hunt for hidden patterns in how the pillars were shaped. What the AI uncovered stunned everyone. Most of us imagine ancient builders endlessly pounding rocks until something usable emerged. But the data told a very different story. The pillars weren't placed randomly, or even roughly. They were positioned with a level of mathematical accuracy that borders on terrifying. The AI focused on the three oldest stone enclosures. When it plotted the exact center point of each main pillar and connected them, something impossible appeared. A flawless equilateral triangle. Each side matched the others almost perfectly, off by less than a fraction of an inch. Think about what that means. To achieve this, the builders would have needed a deep understanding of geometry. They would have had to measure long distances across uneven terrain with extreme precision. And remember, we're told these people didn't even have rulers. They supposedly couldn't write numbers down. Yet they were performing calculations we normally associate with Greek mathematicians thousands of years later. And that wasn't even the most unsettling part. The AI also analyzed the microscopic tool marks left on the stone. For years, archaeologists claimed the pillars were shaped through pecking, a painfully slow method where stone is struck again and again with another stone. But the laser scans revealed something else entirely. Along the edges of the pillars were straight, razor-clean cuts, stretching more than 3 feet in length. These lines were astonishingly thin, about 1/10 of an inch wide. Music builds. That kind of precision shouldn't exist here. When the AI compared these marks to every known type of stone tool, nothing matched. Stone tools leave uneven, chipped surfaces. These cuts were smooth, clean, surgical. The data suggests the builders had a way to slice through solid limestone as if it were soft wood. Yet there's a huge problem. No metal tools have ever been found at the site. No bronze, no iron, nothing. And if metal had been used, we would expect to see rust stains or chemical residues embedded in the stone. But the limestone is spotless. So the question becomes unavoidable. If they didn't have metal, and stone tools couldn't do this, what were they using? The AI then examined the surface texture at a microscopic level and found something even stranger. In several areas, the stone didn't look carved at all. It looked softened, almost melted. Music shifts. This leads to what researchers now call the machine signature problem. Modern cutting machines leave behind distinct patterns, tiny, repeating marks caused by rotating blades or mechanical movement. The AI detected patterns on these pillars that look disturbingly similar. The spacing is too uniform. The depth too consistent. It doesn't resemble the work of exhausted humans carving under the sun 12,000 years ago. It looks more like something automated, mechanical, almost robotic. And that realization is deeply unsettling, because it hints at a level of technology we have no explanation for. But the scanners weren't done yet. Soon, they detected something that pushed the mystery into nightmare territory. Music deepens. Researchers found evidence of a technique known as thermal shock, hidden deep inside the limestone quarries. Chemical analysis revealed scorch marks showing the bedrock had been heated to temperatures between 750 and 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's extreme heat. To raise limestone to those temperatures, you'd need a powerful, carefully controlled fire. But here's the twist. They didn't stop there. Scientists also found signs that cold water was poured onto the stone immediately afterward. This method, rapid heating followed by sudden cooling, causes rock to fracture along clean, predictable lines. It's a brilliant technique. But pulling it off without destroying a massive 50-ton pillar is incredibly difficult. You'd need intimate knowledge of the stone's natural fault lines. You'd have to control the heat perfectly so it didn't penetrate too deeply. The fact that this was being done over 11,000 years ago raises serious questions. These people weren't just smashing rocks. They were applying physics. They were using chemistry. They were letting nature do the hard work for them. And it gets even stranger. Those heat signatures weren't limited to the quarries. They were found on the finished pillars themselves. Some of the animal carvings show signs of being smoothed using intense heat, as if the surface was briefly melted and polished into a glass-like finish. Today, stonemasons use diamond blades or high-pressure water jets to achieve that effect. The idea that someone was doing something similar at the end of the last ice age is more than just puzzling. It completely rewrites the human story. What makes this even more disturbing? This fire and ice technique appears suddenly in the archaeological record. And then, no buildup, no earlier experiments, just mastery, out of nowhere. Normally, when a new technology is born, you see the failures first. Cracked stones, ruined pillars, experiments that went wrong. You expect to find evidence of trial and error. Rocks shattered by too much heat, columns split clean in half by mistakes. But at Göbekli Tepe, none of that exists. The earliest pillars are the most flawless. There's no sign of beginners figuring things out. No rough drafts. No accidents. It's as if the builders arrived on day one already knowing exactly how the stone would behave. Every weakness, every limit, every secret. That changes everything. It suggests these people weren't inventing civilization. They were inheriting it, continuing a knowledge system that may have already been thousands of years old. So the obvious question becomes unavoidable. If this knowledge was so advanced, where did it go? Why did a culture capable of reshaping stone, mastering geometry, and moving 50-ton blocks suddenly disappear? Göbekli Tepe was active for roughly 1,500 years, and then, without warning, it was deliberately erased. The generations that followed in the same region didn't build monuments. They lived in simple shelters. They lost the math, the physics vanished, the control of heat was forgotten. It's as if humanity hit a hard reset, like the entire species was forced to start again from scratch. And the reason they buried the site may be even more unsettling than how it was built. Most people obsess over how Göbekli Tepe came into existence, but the real mystery is why it was hidden. This wasn't nature reclaiming the land. It wasn't a slow burial by wind and sand. Scientists now know the soil used to cover the temple was carried in from miles away. It wasn't random dirt either. It was a deliberate mixture of crushed limestone, animal bones, and broken flint tools. More than 10 million cubic feet of material was used. That's enough fill to pack the Empire State Building 10 times over. This was a massive engineering operation whose only purpose was to erase the site from the surface of the earth. And they didn't just dump the soil and walk away. Specific objects were placed carefully during the burial. Human skulls carved with deep grooves. Statues intentionally shattered, then laid face down. The layout feels deliberate, ritualistic, almost like a funeral, not for a building, but for an entire civilization. Some researchers believe the burial was meant to destroy the site's memory. That something happened there, something so terrifying, that the builders wanted to make sure it was never seen again. But the AI analysis revealed something even more chilling. The layers of fill show the burial happened fast, not over centuries, not even over decades. It was rushed, organized, urgent. They weren't casually closing a chapter. They were racing against time. So what were they afraid of? One theory points to a catastrophic event known as the Younger Dryas impact, a possible comet strike that may have triggered massive floods, global fires, and a sudden plunge in temperatures. If the world was collapsing, burying their most sacred site might have been an act of preservation, not destruction. In that sense, Göbekli Tepe isn't just a ruin, it's a time capsule. The people who built it may have known their world was ending, that their age of advanced stoneworking, precise mathematics, and forgotten technology was coming to a close. By sealing the temple underground, they protected it from erosion, from chaos, from time itself. They left it waiting for us. And now that we've uncovered it, we're forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. Our ancestors were far more advanced than we were ever taught. They weren't primitive survivors. They were master builders, engineers who understood the earth, the sky, and forces we're only beginning to grasp. When archaeologists look at technological revolutions, there is always one constant pattern. Failure comes first. You see abandoned attempts, half-finished experiments, broken tools, evidence that someone tried and got it wrong. That's how progress works. Humans stumble forward, but Göbekli Tepe breaks that rule completely. At this site, the oldest work is also the most refined. The earliest pillars show absolute confidence, perfect proportions, clean cuts, no hesitation, no wasted effort. There is no evidence of trial and error anywhere in the stone. It's as if the builders weren't learning. They were remembering. This raises a terrifying possibility. What if the people who built Göbekli Tepe were not the beginning of civilization, but the survivors of one that came before? A culture that inherited ancient knowledge passed down through generations long before history officially began. If that's true, then Göbekli Tepe isn't humanity's first great monument. It's a relic from the aftermath. And that leads to an even darker question. If this knowledge once existed, why was it lost? The site was used for roughly 15 centuries. That's longer than the entire lifespan of many ancient empires. And then, suddenly, everything stops. The construction ends. The rituals end. And instead of expanding the site or passing the knowledge forward, the builders do something unprecedented. They erase it. After the burial, the people who lived in the same region reverted to a simpler way of life. No monumental stonework, no advanced geometry, No evidence of controlled heat techniques, no massive construction projects. The skill set vanishes completely. This is not how cultures normally decline. Knowledge usually degrades slowly. But here, it disappears almost overnight. It's as if something severed the chain of understanding entirely. A global reset. And the way Göbekli Tepe was buried makes it clear this was not random and not peaceful. Researchers have confirmed that the soil used to cover the site was intentionally transported from distant locations. This wasn't convenient dirt scooped from nearby ground. It was chosen, sorted, carried, layered. The fill contained crushed stone, broken tools, animal remains, and human bones, all mixed together with purpose. Over 10 million cubic feet of material was packed tightly into every chamber, hallway, and enclosure. This was not abandonment. This was a coordinated operation, and the logistics alone are staggering. Organizing enough people to move that volume of material would have required leadership, planning, food storage, and communication on a massive scale. The same level of coordination required to build the site was mobilized again, just to hide it. Why go to that much effort unless something had gone terribly wrong? Then come the details that truly disturb researchers. Human skulls discovered at the site were not buried respectfully. Deep grooves had been carved into them. Some show signs of being suspended or displayed before burial. Statues were found smashed deliberately, heads removed, bodies broken, then placed face down in the soil. This wasn't destruction caused by invaders or natural disaster. It was ritualized, symbolic, final. Many archaeologists now believe Göbekli Tepe was intentionally killed, shut down in a ceremonial act meant to end its purpose forever, like sealing a door that was never meant to be opened again. So the final question remains. If ancient humans achieved machine-like precision once before, are we simply living between resets? Like and subscribe.